This one's for the basketball purists that didn't unsubscribe when the number one piece of news that I brought onto the channel was news regarding Tyler Hero's current girlfriend being involved with Kyle Kuzma in the past, or the fact that Paul George's relationship may have been the reason why Doc Rivers got fired. I understand that I come up with a lot of wild conspiracy theories that may alienate the basketball purists, but I hope you understand I'm only doing it because I really want to be a jack of all trades for you guys. I don't want to give you what you could watch on cable television. And finally, I am about to give you by far one of my most proud pieces of all time. As a man that started out as a LeBron hater in the beginning of the decade and now supports him at the end of the decade, I think this is probably one of my best works so far. So really quickly, before I cut to the intro, I'm giving away a PlayStation 5 on this channel, a PlayStation 5 on my football channel microphone. I'm also giving away PS5s on my Instagram and on my Twitter, pretty much as a way to thank you guys for how successful we've been recently. But to enter on this channel, all you have to do is subscribe and turn on my notification bell. I'm just going to pick one of the people in my Noti gang to win a PS5 on this channel or on my microphone channel. Now that we got all of that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, I remember where I was when I found out that LeBron James was joining the Miami Heat, and it wasn't during the time that you guys all thought it was. It wasn't when he was sitting at the Boys and Girls Club and announcing that he's going to join the Miami Heat. It was leaked the night before, literally the night that the Los Angeles Lakers won their previous NBA championship, and I thought immediately that this was going to tarnish LeBron James's legacy. And of course, throughout history, there's a lot of moments where an individual will say, hey, this instance is going to tarnish this player's legacy. I've heard it over and over and over again. And how many times have you heard that Kevin Durant's rings don't count? LeBron James's rings with Miami don't count. But at the end of the day, they do count. And believe it or not, LeBron James leaving to the Miami Heat 10 years ago changed the entire scope of the NBA. It became a players' league immediately after that. Literally right after that, you saw players like Dwight Howard go to the Lakers and then leave the Los Angeles Lakers to go to the Houston Rockets. You saw Chris Paul get traded to the Los Angeles Clippers. You saw Carmelo Anthony demand a trade to the New York Knicks. And then you saw LaMarcus Aldridge leave. And this is just off the top of my head because eventually bigger fish started to leave, like Kevin Durant started to leave. And then Paul George demanded a trade. He got traded to OKC. The Rockets were able to acquire Chris Paul for James Harden. And more recently, we saw a power move pretty much replicated when Kawhi Leonard said, hey, unless if you guys acquire Paul George, I am not joining the Los Angeles Clippers. So the reason I'm telling you guys this is your interpretation of what this championship means for LeBron James's legacy now might be different in 10 years from now based off of the butterfly effect from now to the end of the decade. So with that being said, we got to bring up the number one argument against this championship in general. The Orlando bubble. This championship doesn't count because it was played in a bubble. It was played many months later. A lot of players and a lot of teams were a little rusty, and as a result, not every team was able to play to their best ability. And although that might be true, you can make an argument that this is a weird championship and it doesn't count because there's no fans in the stands. You could also make an argument that a team must be even more locked in, more poised, and more focused now more than ever, especially in the midst of a freaking pandemic and quite possibly one of the greatest civil unrests in the history of our country. You literally heard Kyrie Irving saying that he is not going to join the bubble because he felt like there were more pressing issues to discuss at the surface. You had players literally boycotting a game as a result of the social outcry in our society. The narrative has been set up to destroy whoever won the NBA championship this year, whether it's LeBron James, which congratulations on your 4th championship, or if it's James Harden who won his first championship. No matter what, the haters are going to say that this championship doesn't count. But hopefully, based off of what I told you, I gave you ammunition, because there's never going to be a point in NBA history where a player is going to be placed in a situation where your skill and your ability to win a championship was based off of how you were able to be so focused and locked in during one of the most distracting times in NBA history, during a point where you didn't have home court advantage, during a point where you might be a little bit more rusty and your team hasn't had the opportunity to play with each other as much. Take that ammunition, Laker fans and LeBron fans, and use it to your advantage, because although right now you're going to have a bunch of haters saying that this championship for LeBron James doesn't count, in about 10 years from now, we're all going to be marveling at the fact that this was the only time in NBA history where players didn't have any fans in the stands. There was no home court advantage. There was a pause in the NBA season, and the people that were really on their grind focused on their game to make sure they were ready to make a championship run, and there will never be an opportunity like this again in NBA history. Of course, unless we have to play next season in a bubble, which sucks if we do. Now, on top of that, LeBron James also has successfully attained a milestone that has only been chased by two other players that were considered to be role players, based off of, with lack of a better way of saying it, because I believe these players were both really good, but they weren't having full teams built around them. The only other two players that were able to win 4 or more championships with 3 franchises is Robert Horry, who won 7 championships with the Houston Rockets, LA Lakers, and the San Antonio Spurs, and John Sally, who won championships with the Pistons, Bulls, and the Lakers. And those two are role players. You didn't have teams being built around John Sally. You didn't have teams being built around Robert Horry. In each and every one of these circumstances, LeBron James joined a team that was literally rebuilding, literally at its lowest point ever, and was able to have a team assembled around him and was able to lead that team to a championship. One of those teams being the most cursed franchises in NBA history, but this year resurrecting a Los Angeles Lakers squad that literally had a horrible protest a year ago due to their inability to make the NBA playoffs. Now, I understand why you guys clicked on this video. I understand what you guys are thinking. We want to know about how LeBron James stacks up against Michael Jordan after winning this NBA Finals, winning championship number 4. And well, as is tradition, I want to get your opinion in the comment section down below before I jump into this controversial piece of analysis. Who is currently your GOAT? Who is currently winning in the legacy debate between Michael Jordan and LeBron James after LeBron James won championship number 4? I'm going to give you like 5 seconds to comment your take in the comment section down below. And at the end of the video, I want to see what your opinion is and whether I was able to change your mind, if it even needed changing at all. I'm going to answer that and try to remain impartial as much as I can, but it's very difficult to remain impartial on such a subject. And just to make sure I give you guys a little bit of context about myself, I was born in 1993. I didn't really grow up watching Michael Jordan as much as, most other people did. So if I do seem a little biased, it's because I literally had the pleasure of watching each and every game of LeBron James's career and watched his career unfold before my eyes when I was paying attention to it. With that being said, there are things that LeBron James easily holds over Michael Jordan. Easily. Like, it's not even a contest. If you look at their statistics in terms of per game statistics, you'd see that Michael Jordan beats LeBron James when it comes to points per game, steals per game. They're tied for blocks per game, less turnovers per game. They have about the same minutes per game. LeBron barely edges out Michael Jordan for field goal percentage and beats him for 3-point percentage, but drops free throw percentage. And the number one thing that your typical LeBron James fan will say is that LeBron James played significantly more games than Michael Jordan, logging 7,000 more minutes than Michael Jordan at the current time of this video. Now, if you look at advanced statistics, those tend to favor LeBron a little bit more. If you look at player efficiency rating, Jordan definitely takes the win over LeBron. But other stats like value over replacement player, win shares, and true shooting percentage, all while being used a little bit less, goes to LeBron James. And look, I don't really put a lot of value in player efficiency rating, but when you have that many more win shares, and your value over replacement player is that much higher, then I'm going to have to give a slight edge to LeBron James. Now you might be thinking, what about the playoffs? Well, in the playoffs, LeBron James had a slightly lower player efficiency rating than Jordan once again, but he had a greater value over replacement player, a slightly smaller box plus minus, significantly more win shares, a better true shooting percentage, and slightly less usage. I feel like we should go based off of the advanced statistics more than anything else. And that's not to disrespect MJ, because at the end of the day, I will possibly give Michael Jordan the nod over LeBron James because I don't think basketball would be as big as it is if it wasn't for Michael Jordan. And I think LeBron James did a remarkable job carrying the torch of being this generation's greatest player of all time. So it's very hard to say who is definitively better than the other, but the advanced statistics point to LeBron, but bear in mind they both played in different eras. At the end of the day, Michael Jordan does have 5 MVPs to LeBron James's 4. He has 6 finals MVPs to LeBron James's 3. He's also flawless in the NBA Finals, whereas LeBron James is, famously 4 of 9. Yes, I'm going to say this, LeBron James definitely had significantly more difficult competition in the NBA Finals than Michael Jordan did, and it's not even a question. If you look at Michael Jordan's situation, he had Phil Jackson, who was an offensive genius. He had Scottie Pippen, who was a top 5 player in the league. He had Horace Grant in the early part of his career, which was a phenomenal third option, but then you go to the latter part of his career, and he had Dennis Rodman, a phenomenal defender and a great rebounder. He had a front office that really didn't make sense because they wanted to rebuild despite Michael Jordan still being able to play a little bit more, and to this day I still don't understand that. But that front office seemed to know what to do with Michael Jordan, and after his initial first 7 years in the NBA trying to figure it out, it appears as though there was some stability in Jordan's career. Every single year it was fairly simple. Run it back with the triangle and Scottie Pippen and your third option. Make sure you bring in good role players to support Michael Jordan and just watch magic happen. But in LeBron James's instance, he was drafted to not a large market like the Chicago Bulls, although the Chicago Bulls were known as a traveling cocaine circus in the earlier part of Michael Jordan's career, and they were horrible. But he was drafted to the Cleveland Cavaliers, one of the most cursed franchises in probably all of sports. And during the first 7 years of his career, it was clear that the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't know what to do with him. They clearly had a transcendent talent on their hands, and their best attempt at getting him help was in the form of Mo Williams, Antoine Jamison, J.J. Hickson, a 38-year-old Shaquille O'Neal. Like, come on, really? A 38-year-old Shaquille O'Neal? They got Larry Hughes and I guess Ben Wallace, but during their first 7 years, they had a pretty nice opportunity to build around LeBron James and make a push for an NBA championship, and they didn't. As a result, LeBron James didn't want his prime to go to waste, so he went to a stable organization with talent surrounding him so he could win a championship and see what it takes to win a championship. Then he would return to Cleveland and he would try to build his own roster by himself, telling the Cavaliers to trade Andrew Wiggins and Anthony Bennett for Kevin Love, forming a big three with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, making multiple finals appearances but only being able to successfully convert on one of them because, during his first attempt with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love got injured. During his second attempt, he achieved probably the greatest NBA Finals victory that I think definitely is better than anything that Jordan's ever won by coming back from a 3-1 series deficit against the team that had the greatest regular season record of all time. So at the end of the day, what does this all mean for LeBron James's legacy? What does championship number 4 mean for LeBron's legacy? You're always going to have people that are going to say that he's never going to catch Michael Jordan. You're going to have people that say, well, he's already there. And at the end of the day, each of these respective players have something going for them that the other doesn't have going for them. But something that LeBron James can officially say that Michael Jordan cannot, he was able to win championships with 3 separate franchises and winning one of them by defeating his former franchise in the NBA Finals. So let me know in the comment section down below, what does championship 4 mean for LeBron James's legacy? Did he finally catch up to Michael Jordan? Is he greater than Michael Jordan, or is he still a little bit behind? If he's behind Michael Jordan, what is it going to take for him to surpass him? Is it even possible for him to surpass him? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I wanted to thank you guys for quite possibly the greatest run of my YouTube career. These NBA playoffs have been very grueling, a lot of sleepless nights, and I've had a really good time covering them for you guys. I know sometimes that my content could be a little bit out there, and I know sometimes it could be a little bit controversial, but at the end of the day, just know I put my heart and soul in each and every video, and I always try to improve on each and every video. And if there's ever something that bothers you, I'm always here to listen to your feedback, and I love each and every one of you guys for allowing me to work on what I love each and every day. Aside from that, I'm your boy, TheFlightMike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.